Namaste everyone. Welcome to our 26th day of the World Interfaith Festival. Today we have a special program to acknowledge all the people from African continent. The state of religion and spirituality in the African world. That is our theme. So moderated by Remi Alapo. And everybody know Black History Month is very popular in America, Canada, Ireland, and UK. Black History Month is an annual observance originating in the United States, where it is also known as African American History Month. It has received official recognition from governments in the United States and Canada, and more recently has been observed in Ireland and the United Kingdom. It began as a way of remembering important people and events in the history of African diaspora. I won't say only for important people, for all Africans. It is celebrated in February in the United States and Canada, while in Ireland and United Kingdom it is observed in October. I hope soon it will observe around the globe, needed. So we owe something to African community, the origin of the human race on earth, that is Africa. Here I like to invite my longtime friend, colleague, my sister, Dr. Remi Alapo. She's the executive director of the Institute for Peace and Leadership, an NGO representative at the United Nations. Additionally, she's an advisory board member of the World Yoga Community. Here is our sister, Dr. Remi Alapo. Floor is for you.
Namaste, Guruji. Thank you so much for planning and organizing this program this morning. And good morning to everyone. Good afternoon, everyone, and good evening to everyone, wherever you're logging in or calling in from. It's a pleasure to be here this morning to moderate this program in collaboration with members of World Yoga Community, and also to continue the tradition and also the program for World Interfaith Harmony Week, which World Yoga Community has continued with a series of activities tailored to promoting interreligious or peace with many diverse communities. And in such, there has been a lot of spiritual activities, a lot of education activities, and also a lot of prayer activities. So this morning, what we have for you is a lineup of diverse people from all walks of life, diverse religious traditions, spiritual backgrounds, and from various communities who would like to share a discussion based on their practice, based on their various activities on the state of African religion. Many people, of course, understand that, or for those who don't understand that, a lot has transpired on the African continent that has impacted spirituality, that has impacted traditional religions. We can start a history lesson right here this morning, but we probably would not leave here if we started talking about, historical facts and things like that. Of course, we need to bring into the limelight at one point or the other. But one such activity is the influx of so many diverse, people who the continent has, and so many diverse people who are now in the diaspora, who have continued many of the African traditions, and in the diaspora in search of or in recognition of an identity, of a religious practice, of a spiritual practice, of keeping the African practice alive. So what I would like to do first before we bring up the guest speaker, is to have a prayer, a libation first of all, because in many parts of Africa, we will start a program with libation, remembering the ancestors, remembering the gods, remembering those who were here before us, and paying homage to them. So what I would like to do is to invite my very good friend, my brother, Chief Ifakunle Adetutu Alagbede, who is from Oyotunji African Kingdom in South Carolina. And once he concludes with his prayer, we're going to show a short video on Oyotunji Kingdom to showcase how some African Americans have been able to bring or have influence in their day-to-day life the Yoruba culture, the tradition in the Americas. So first of all, brother, please bless us this morning with some prayers before we continue.
Akushe, thank you very much, Dr. Remi. I'm so pleased and honored to be here this morning, up and alive, still in the world. I feel so privileged. So, without any further ado, I will Paul Omitutu, Ile Tutu, only. We give our praise to and homage to Olodumare, the great God, the God of our ancestors. We give our praise to the Irumale, the Jokotu, the ones that sit on the right, the one who sit on the left of God. We give praise to and honor to all honorable traditions, and particularly to all the deities. We give praise to Olodumare, the owner of today, the owner of yesterday, the owner of all days to come. He to whom all the Irumale, the Agbamale exist to know his laws and command, originated and creator of all things, discovered and yet to be discovered. Today we give praise to our ancestors and those who fought the inboundable fight to be able to make sure that our lives are here today. Their spirits are we humbly beseech them to continue to allow us to move forward with a Pan-African, pan-united way of peace, harmony, love, light, in fact, love supreme. Let us reign with love for one another, one for each other's traditions, and honoring each other's prophets. Because the prophet was not only sent to one place, prophets were sent and dispersed throughout the world. So in China, there are prophets, and there are prophets that have appeared and came in all throughout Africa and all throughout the United Kingdoms and South America and all of the Nordic areas, as well as the Englands, and there have been prophets. And so we give honor and praise to Buddha, to the Hinduism, of course, to the ancient African traditions of ancient Egypt. But we give praise for the one and spirit of each one of us, because there's a spirit, a speck of that God that unites within all of us. And so today we give praise and honor to that which unites us all, because people want to know, where are you from? And the real answer is that I'm from planet Earth. And who are you? I'm a human being. So today, let us recognize and realize that beyond any color of skin or different traditions, that we are united under one thing. We are here on the planet Earth, and we're human beings, and that we deserve to be treated equally and with a loving spirit and kindness. So as we give praise to our ancestors, we give praise to saying that Igba o monjo, that when things should come together, we should rake them together and we should pluck them up from out of the earth. Let dewdrops fall like blessings from out of the sky on each and every one of us today, so that our blessings can nurture those seeds that we have planted in the earth. And remember that if we plant one seed, we do not get one seed in return. We get bushels and bushels of blessings. So today I offer you these blessings and these prayers from in the diaspora. And I want to give one little correction. I'm living in New York City, no longer living in Oyotunji. But I am one of the chiefs of Oyotunji village in South Carolina. So we give praise to our Obas, to our kings, and those who are our leaders in our communities, and to each and every one of your voices here today, as each and one of your spirits come together in this Pan-African, pan-spirituality, and the uniting of all our religions. Ashe.
Ashe. Adupe. Thank you so much. Now, I would like to begin with a short video, and then we'll bring Chief Ifakunle back for his talk. Guruji, do I have share screen capability?
I'm just playing.
Oh, okay. Do you see? I posted the link in the chat.
Yeah, it's playing. Going to play.
Yes.
You may need to share sound.
People say, well, that old African culture is old. We don't need it anymore, our king. That's old African culture. I say, well, everything we do today is old European culture, so why not use some African culture just to try it out a little bit? It's all the same. It's all old culture. Who practices anything new?
You know, for me, it starts when I start to make that curve out there on the highway, and you see the Oyotunji sign, and you turn there, and you start heading down what I call Sedgman Highway. You know, hey, it's nice and smooth. You can make it down that road.
To the village, as we began to come down Safari Road, that hole in our soul began to be filled up.
The minute you park and walk through this gate, the realization that you are in hallowed ground, you know, especially when you understand what people went through to make this happen.
This is nothing compared to what they have to do.
The number one fundamental of being an African is work. I think they brought us here to work.
I'm one of the founders.
That's it.
We carved this out of the wood.
That's
With a machete.
That's it. That's it.
Folks who were here when they didn't even have running water, folks had to carry water.
No cable, no television, no electricity. We had outhouse, and we did all right.
And we are a direct reflection of what they do in Africa, which is our culture, our history, our ancestors, ancient times.
But the people are bringing the culture with them. You know, got Sierra Leone, you got Igbo people, probably some Yoruba mixed in.
Without the ancestors' emphasis on survival, then no one would be here. Survival and to be able to thrive. You have to learn the lessons from your past.
So the girl was catching a lot of spirits back here. So there's a lot of spirits back here. That's why when people come to the village, they say they see all types of spirits is because of this place and what used to be here.
The Egungun, or the ancestors, represent the foundation upon which our culture is built.
We worked here, we made our money here, and so it was like, this is how our people lived in Africa.
Didn't have electricity, you know, had to build everything that they were living at. This was, you know, you see that's all forest. This was the same way. You know, they had to cut these trees down, and they had to form this area so that they could live here.
Oyotunji is a great starting place.
And our culture is our foundation, and we can intellectualize about it, and we can philosophize about it, but we got to put some hands and nails, and got to lay some blocks, and got to grow some food, and all of those things that make a nation.
No excuse. The vibe out here.
No excuses. Got to get it done. Get it done or die. That's what it is.
Sure. Spiritually learn to be themselves and build a family and homes for themselves instead of depending on corporate America.
Went to the woods, got our woods, a wood burning stove. Very respectful.
So there was respect growing up, for your elders.
That's right. Oyotunji is a great starting place if you ever want to bring your kids. This is the place.
That's right. And it's still here. It's still here, and it's still the place. The place. If African Americans are really interested in finding out who they are, where they came from, and probably feel like they don't have a place like Chinese have Chinatown, and everywhere you go around America, ethnic groups have their place.
Oyotunji is an expression of Black people's culture here in North America. So just like you have a Chinatown and you have a Greek town, you might even have a German town. Here you have an African town. It's the only one in North America, and I wish there were more.
And I'm sure most African Americans don't even think of themselves as having a place, but here it is.
We're a great race of people. We were not just slaves. We had a purpose that nobody taught us, and I thought it was very important then that we made sure that African people living in America knew that they were more than just like on Black History Month, products of slaves.
The point being is that civilization was born in Africa. The first civilizations were African. But when the cultural wars began, we were cast into prison camps.
And don't forget where you come from.
To find out the great things that we were not taught in school that our African ancestors did.
It's about your culture. Examine your culture that you're studying.
A life-changing experience.
This was really, really, really life-changing for me.
I enjoyed it. It's awesome. It's awesome every time I come. I'll be back in a week.
And I'm just one of the fortunate ones that got hooked up, got connected, learned to appreciate my ancestors through this place.
I call it my awakening.
But it's here, and it's available, and I'm finding out more and more people are finding out that there's a Oyotunji African village in the United States where resides the king of all North American Yorubas, okay? Declared by the source.
The Iroquois nation has a saying whereby they live for the 7th generation. They do everything they do is for 7 generations down the road. We have to get out and work right alongside the people. If the people are working, we right there working, at least to get them going, and then we fall back and do other things. And so in the community, we look forward to having people really become conscious in terms of creating the foundations, the building blocks for self-determination.
Our Oba has taught me how to chop wood, and I didn't know because I'm a Florida girl. So
this is actual women doing the work, showing that women really do live again.
I never had to chop wood. We just turn on the switch, and we get heat.
Come to Oyotunji, work with the Oba. It's the highest form of resistance.
Wow. My heart beat like I just took it. Wow.
We can't do too much talking. Action, production.
And so we look to nature when we're talking about utilizing the ancestral culture and then bringing it into practicality, or bringing it into the practical world.
And our new king, our new Oba, is carrying on carry on. One of the reasons to live a few years more is to see the ongoing saga of this place and its determination to live out its creed, to live out its reason for being. And that's all the energy that's going in to make this place what it was designed to be by the very beginning in the mind of its founder, who did all the sacrificing to make sure that Oyo Juni exists and it stands here.
You do come from a line of powerful people.
In the streets, they pick up all the street stuff. The drugs, the cussing, the disrespect. That's what they pick up in the streets.
You come from people who are productive, people who are passionate about their culture, people who wanted to keep the children safe, wanted to keep the elders safe, they wanted to keep the family together, they wanted people to work together, live together. If there was a problem, we sat down, we dealt with it, and kept going. You understand? That's what I mean by powerful people. That's power.
It's priceless.
Just to walk through this gate, just to be on this ground, to me is a blessing. Man, how you doing, man? Excuse me, I'm on wet.
This was really a freeing experience. It was truly Independence Day, and I'm just real excited about the possibilities, and I plan to come back on a regular basis.
So yes, let's continue. We worship. We African people, we worship, we work, and we celebrate. Share, drink, and be merry.
Thank you very much for playing that video. Very, very empowering. I've also had the privilege to visit Oyotunji a couple of times. Once last year during the Juneteenth weekend, and then in October this past year for the King's Day celebrations. And, you know, if I closed my eyes and didn't know where I was before traveling there or where I was going to, and I appeared there and opened my eyes, I would have thought I was somewhere in Africa, which is exactly what the kingdom, you know, the reasons for forming such a location, that's the exact reason that it's, you know, was created for, you know, a beacon, a place where people of African descent in North America who are not able, you know, maybe to travel to Africa or want to learn more about Africa, its customs, traditions, spirituality, religion, you know, can visit and can connect, can live the Ubuntu, which means, you know, unity, Ubuntu, the community, you know, it's what Oyotunji is about. So, you know, when we're talking of the state of African religion and spirituality, we're not only talking of the religion in Africa. So many people, of course, obviously, like myself, you know, I'm a Nigerian, but I'm out of Nigeria and I'm in the US. From time to time, you know, I want to connect with my roots. I want to connect with, you know, my people. I want to connect with my spirituality to continue, you know, to learn more and engage or be groundly rooted in the customs, the traditions. Where do I go? Who do I talk to? So that's why this forum this morning is very important, because we have a number of people representing diverse traditions. And since we just watched the video about Oyotunji, and I would like to bring Chief Ifakunle to give us his view on the state of African religion and spirituality in the diaspora and the influences of African religion or spirituality on people or descendants in the diaspora. Chief Ifakunle.
Thank you very much. It's with such pride that I look at my Oba, or Sir Jumi Menakaya the first, the king, first king of Oyotunji village. And remember his the interesting thing about the whole history is really about resistance. And so when we talk about real eyes, real lies, real lies, and Malcolm X said there is no religion that is greater than the truth, and no truth is greater than the fact. And so when we want to know about the truth and know about facts, you know, out of Oyotunji, or the state of the religion, or people want to know a small history lesson about what happened, what occurred. It all came out of Harlem, USA, bigger, better, blacker than Disney World, a mad sunburst, prettiest place on the universe. And it is a place where a lot of the resistance that took place, not only in the United States, because oftentimes people think of the Black Panther Party being started. And remember, the Black Panther Party was not about militant. It wasn't a militant organization. It was an organization which about bringing social change. So many of the things that happened in the mid to the early to mid to the end of the 50s was really representative of a changing time in which Africans in the diaspora, African Americans in this place, as well as some imported Africans who had come, and also other people from other islands like Haiti. And it's a very, very important to note Haiti as having the revolution of 1803, in which they be able to bring a state of liberation to African people. And it was a time in which every place on the planet there was enslaved people, not only Africans, there were Europeans, Chinese, there was enslavement throughout the world, and as there is still to today. But the course of action that took place, which is very important in the 50s, then led itself to the action of the awareness that took place in the 60s and into the 70s, where, you know, love and freedom and fighting, the idea of fighting against the hypocrisies, the unruliness of government and things that bring about the need for social change. And for people who know, African Americans were being hosed, they were being beaten. We had Emmett Till, who was being killed for being just accused of something that he didn't even do. We had all type of revolts and need for social change. And out of that came the idea of African religion. Because it is believed that of everything that we have, we cannot fight them militarily. We cannot fight them socially because they have the government's locked up, or being able to not be able to have our own government or our own ruling. We were subjected to everything. But one thing that we had was our African spirits. And that was the spirit of indomitable freedom fighters and social change. And so it was that liberated Haiti. And it was that our king, Osejumena Adefumi I, had his vision of being able to want this idea of empowerment, of to be able to, how do we fight this thing? Well, it was with the African spirits. So Ogun became awakened. Eshu Odara, Eshu, became awakened. The deity of Ochosi, Oshun, Babaluaye, Nanaburuku, the Oshun, Yemanja, Oya. How do we begin to reach back? Because it is like the Sankofa bird, that we needed to reach back, or look back over our shoulders, in which things that had been done before and were successful, that we can then propel ourselves forward for the future. As Oba said, that our own goal is to be able to have enough and to be able to have the resources and the vision for 7 generations ahead of us. So we have to reach back in order to propel ourselves forward. And so the real lies, or the things that was becoming realized about real lies, the lies that we were told that we were nothing, that we were not, we didn't come from anything, that we didn't have a way of igniting anything that was justifiable, or anything that was worthy of being anything beyond slavery. And it was that teaching that Osojum Adefumi first and Oyetunji represented that, because it became very apparent that living in New York City, we were under social scrutiny, and that we were being scrutinized and watched over, and wanted to know, well, where can we go? What can we do to be able to overcome this? And going back to Africa was a thought. Going back and trying to find a place in Africa where we would be able to, but many of us couldn't afford to go to Africa. So if we cannot go back to Africa, then it was our the brilliance that we realized that we need to bring Africa to us. And so the African Americans that were freedom fighters, that were in African-based religions, that had gone to Cuba, Havana, Cuba, and brought back some of these icons. And as my king said, he went to Cuba to be able to get these shrines, and thinking that he was going to come back with some power, and all he came back with was a bunch of rocks, and he wasn't sure what to do with them. But over the course of time, we begin to realize that it's through the nature of the world, and the nature of the forces, the air, the wind, the waters, and of course the fire to be able to bring a furnace and be able to wake up and to start building and start cutting. So they left New York City and went down to South Carolina, and they formed two different places that was Oyetunji. And the Oyetunji that is now today is actually the second place where Oyetunji exists. And it was established in 1970. So how is that related to the state of African religion in the diaspora, or African Americans and those who are in the African diaspora becoming really involved with African tradition? Well, the state of America is that it has transformed many thousands of people to be able to want to go back to Africa. In 1975, when I lived in Oyetunji, I can clearly tell you that when I got to Africa in 1989, that my experience in Oyetunji was so much more rigorous than the experience that I experienced in Nigeria. Because Oyetunji, we had no running water, no light, we had mosquitoes up the yin-yang. We dealt with lanterns. We walked around with lanterns, and we had very old school type living, things that were, archaic in some ways. And the roads were all roads that we built. The landscape was all landscape that we had cut down, and the trees that we used was the ones that we built our own huts or houses. And those are the things, and we ate off of open fires, and we had our animals and everything there. So it began to transform some of the need for realism. Having lived in New York City and living in the inner city, in particular in the Bronx, and have lived in Harlem and lived in around, we dealt with a lot of gang violence, and we dealt with a lot of criminal activities, and there was drugs everywhere. But Oyetunji offered a place where we could then, where I was sent, I should just speak specifically about me. I was sent because of some activity that had happened here and some threats from some gangs. And they took me out of New York City and sent me down to Oyetunji as a safe haven. And there, of course, I hated it. I'm like, what? What is this? How can I possibly be here? But while there, I learned about the harshness and the rigorous treatment that I needed to make myself strong, to be able to fend for myself. I used to sell little papers that represented Oyetunji to visitors, and to be able to hear the drums being played, hearing different African names, and giving respect to my elders. The things that I was taught in Oyetunji have taken me throughout my life and have put me in a place of African tradition for the rest of my life, and has allowed me to learn the African, used Yoruba, but not only to experience and appreciate Yoruba, but to also experience many African traditions outside of Yoruba land. I've gone and been to Ghana and with the Akan, traditions in Senegal where the Fulta are very, very powerful and present. You know, I've studied Islam because wondering what can be able to unite us all as a people. I've ventured out and studied some Hinduism, but my base and my heart and my love is the traditions of my ancestors. And so there I stay, and I stay grounded and footed. And so in and around the world now, there has become an awareness of African tradition, and particularly the Yoruba tradition and Ifa. And Ifa is the sacred oracle of the people of the southwestern Nigeria, in which it's able to diagnose, treat, heal, educate, adjudicate, and be able to unravel the mysteries of life. And it's with this Ifa that we have become so very prominent throughout the United States, that African Americans learn about the African traditions by studying Ifa and studying the wisdom of Ope, studying the wisdoms of the traditions, becoming more familiar with Egungun, our ancestors, becoming familiar with Oro, the big brother of things, to put things in order. It has empowered us to realize that what do we have? We have our magic, we have our religion, we have our culture. And it is the only thing that can steep a human being is to be steeped within your culture. Your culture is not only your language, your culture is not only your religion, but your culture is the tradition in which you inherit. This is the wealth that we have. And as you know, in Yoruba tradition, we say that we pray for Ire Omo, Ire Owo, Ire Ariku Babawa, that we pray for money, we pray for our goodness to come through our wife, through our family, and we pray for long life. And of course, with that, we also have to add Ilara, good health. These are the foundations of every human being in the world would want in their life, is the continuance of being able to have and to nurture and also to experience or to have good character, but also to have money, to have wealth in your life. Who would not want wealth in their life? To get married to Ajay? Who would not want good children? Who would not want a good spouse, to have good company and accompaniment in life? Who would not want to have alafia, would not want to have peace? So it's African tradition that if we have peace, then of course we'll be able to reign ourselves supreme, to be able to realize the importance of growing up and growing well and growing our kids well, and hopefully building not only traditions, on our traditions, but also to establish ourselves. So Oyotunji is a foothold, a place by which people are able to come and to realize something that they may have never realized before that ever existed. And so the festivals of Oyotunji bring about life. They bring about a life for the African in the diaspora, and it has become a place of an awakening for many Africans who have then come to United States, having their language, but not really having a foothold on a tradition, realizing that there's something to this tradition, this African tradition. There was one gentleman who lives in Atlanta, and he's become the Araba of Ifa priest, and his name is Ologundundu. And he came to the United States to come to America to study. And when he got here, he heard the music, the drums, and he loved drums, so he started playing drums. And from the drums, he began to realize his own tradition, and had to realize that he had to go back and go study back in Ile-Ife and be able to be reintroduced to his African culture, because that it was something that people here were starving for and hungry for, and that he had access to it, but not realizing the importance of it. And after having going back, he said that he came to America to come and study, and now he had to, and then he's now leaves, when he leaves Africa, leaves America, he's going to leave as an Awo, as a Babalawo. He's going to be leaving as someone that has been very important to putting the energy and realizing and remembering the tradition. So it's very important for us to note that tradition or African tradition is not only for African people, or that tradition is not for just one tradition, but every tradition has its importance. And it is the rudiments of us as people. It is identifiable. Not when you hear the name Ifakunle, there's a sense, without a question, people will look at my fila, my crown, they will say, you're Yoruba. Yeah, you may recognize me as African, but you know by the culture, the beads, by the hat that I wear, by the language that I speak, what place in specific that I may be from. But it says that we are children of Oduduwa. And dudu la dudu o, opola dudu o, ẹ̀yin ọmọ Oduduwa, ẹ jẹ́ àgbà ṣàwa lárugẹ. That we are children of Oduduwa, and that we're here to support and uplift our culture. So it is with that Oyotunji has been alive and well, and it is with that African traditions are alive and well throughout the diaspora, in Cuba, in Trinidad and Tobago, in Puerto Rico, in Brazil, and has been spreading throughout Venezuela and moving down through Honduras and throughout all Jamaica, the islands, all Barbados, and going into various parts of China, as well as there's African traditions being practiced in Japan. So the state of awakening of African Americans and their African traditions has awakened the diaspora. We say that the bata drum is a wonderful drum from Nigeria, but the drum is being played more often in Cuba, and the music of bata music has been spread out into the diaspora through Cuban music. And so a lot of the tradition also has a sense of music. How does our African tradition do? Well, we have someone like Beyonce, who is a very notable character, who has a video called Lollipop, in which she's showing clearly her rendition of what she would call Oshun. And then we have people like, some very popular actors. I won't name them. I decided not to name them, but who have become initiated to Ifa. And there are various people that you are aware of because of African traditions being exposed from the early mid 50s, and the realization of spreading the powerfulness of this African tradition. African traditions, we don't have proselytization. We don't have people on the corner handing out pamphlets. What we have is culture. What we have is religion. What we have is music. What we have is our ancestors. And as we begin to wake them up, we give praise to them each and every day. May our mothers and our fathers continue to support us. And may our traditions, every one of our traditions, always continue to exist. Because if you don't remember, you forget. If you forget your past and don't remember, you can never realize where you're going. So look back, so that we can look forward. Ashe.
Ashe, thank you so much, dear brother, for your empowering words, and also for shedding light into African traditions and spirituality in the diaspora in the Americas, right here in the United States, especially in a place called Oyotunji in South Carolina. Many people may be wondering, how do I continue to, if I'm interested in studying about African tradition, because, and I try to come to Oyotunji, what do I need to do first? I know in New York City, where you're based, you have a lot of students. You've trained a lot of students. I'm familiar with many of them. I've collaborated on some activities with many of them. How does one get started? What are the tools needed? How do I get to Oyotunji? And one important thing you also mentioned is that this is not only about Yoruba tradition, even though the basics would be the Yoruba culture and tradition, but it's open to any African. And by African, I don't mean specifically those from the continent, or it's everybody inclusive in the diaspora. It could even be Guruji, who wants to learn more, or about African traditions or religions or customs. So how does one be a part of that community, or what are the steps needed in terms of being a part of that community?
So it's very, very easy. Of course, I can be contacted if anybody's interested into further their understanding of African traditions, or understanding really how to connect. We offer services, and we do services in terms of not only the festivals that exist in Oyotunji, but here in New York City, in Harlem, as well as. So I can be contacted easily at www.ifakunle.com. And if there, you can always email me or contact me. My contact information is there. Once again, it's ifakunle.com. As my Oba says, you are Ifakunle Agbaye, of the World Wide Web. So I'm Ifakunle of the World Wide Web. Once you have that name, you have access to so much of the information that is accessible. Our shrine is in Harlem. It's Omo Opwe. So, and we have services every other Sunday, where we give prayers and give lectures, and we deal with, being able to verify and to rectify, bring about some awareness of our culture. Of course, I do private consultations where I'm able to do divinations and be able to forecast and be able to look into through Ifa. And of course, that helps to be able to navigate and to be able to channel weddings, the naming ceremonies. We have do quite a bit of those these days. People have become aware of African culture. So there's a lot of things that are done. And forums like this, you can, learn so much because it allows us to be able to have a pan sense of pan religion, or really pan culture and pan traditions, that our cross traditions are not so different from one another. So, of course, there are regular schedule. Of course, you can go to the website for Oyotunji African Village, and you will be able to see a whole list of our festivals. And our festivals vary. There's festivals for various deities. There's festivals for Founders Day. There's festivals that they represent King's Day. And one of the things is that I invite you all to come and to participate in, because the state of building a tradition and the state of building ourselves up as people is reliant on people who will come and be able to help to donate, and to realize that the importance of each one of us keeping our cultures alive. It's very, very important. So a lot of those things can be, we can be sought out through the internet. And I think at this point, the World Wide Web is the quickest and the easiest way for us all to have a join, so we can be anywhere in the world and still be able to contact us through there. So yeah, I think that's the best way.
All right, Adukbe, thank you so much. And Adukbe in Yoruba means thank you, for your presentation, for enlightening many of us who may not be well familiar with African traditions and culture right here in the diaspora in the United States. And, also for, your contact information. And I know you have to leave very soon, but I wanted you to meet Senior Dr. Chenzira Kahina Davis, who is from the Virgin Islands, and she's a member of the Smaitawi organization, amidst many, many other affiliations that she represents. So I'm going to bring her on next for her talk, and to share with us the state of African tradition and spirituality in the Caribbean, in the Americas, in the diaspora, influences of African customs and traditions. And along her journey, you know, I've had the pleasure of knowing her for a while, and along her journey, I know she has encountered and been in close contact with so many spiritual and religious leaders from around Africa. So I would like her to, you know, share with us this morning on her perspective on the state of African traditions, African religion, and African spirituality.
Greetings, everyone. Hotep.
Greetings, Hotep.
I'm currently in II St. Croix with foundational roots throughout the Caribbean, and I've had the honor and privilege of working with Nana Dr. Remi. I'm also very honored to be in the presence of Baba Guruji, as well as you, Chief Ifakunle. I was younger. There was a time. So we're gonna reflect. So just think of me a little leaner, and it may come back. That's the one. Is that she there? Right. We're going to open up sacred space. So Alafia as well.
Alafia.
You know, Hotep, greetings of peace to everyone. Hail up to those that are comfortable in that frame. Namaste, so that we recognize the divinity in you as you recognize and receive the divinity of me, not in me, but of me. And I will start in a form that is reflective of the ancient ancestral African Nubian, Kushian, Kemetu heritage legacy. It's a lot, because sometimes when persons speak of African religion, we get into a space of separation and divisiveness. Whereas in African spirituality, we are able to embrace that out of the one will manifest many. And once we engage in that form, what I'm about to share will be very familiar. Amasu and Panter, Sauksu Emerhran Panter, Au Tuau Maketi Paherura, Dua Winter. As I speak in that language of the meta nature, the words of divine, the words of nature, the words of the creator, what I'm saying is close to an English translation as is possible, is we give thanks and praise to the one most high. We live each day daily for the one most divine, and we shall do it tomorrow just as we do it today. And that is the essence of where this African spirituality, a little different, of course, than religiosity. And I'd like to highlight, not from an academic space, but from a very sacred, spiritual, social space, that our Africanness is grounded in specific names of our ancestral traditions. So even the term African is what we use because of the languages we speak and what is identified as that 12 million square mile space of continental engagement that is rich of spirituality, not only religion, not only man-made interpretation of that which is essentially spirit, but the essence of all that is, that Nuk Puk Nuk. Some say I am that I am, the Elohim, the Buddha, going even further to the Bun tradition. Many persons overlook that when we begin to speak in these terms, it may seem or it may appear as if there is divisiveness. Persons have, as we've seen in contemporary times and through the history of humankind, warred over religion. Take a moment and reflect on that. We're saying it's in the interest of God, the Creator, the Almighty, and welcoming those spiritual hosts. Some people refer to them as angels, some people refer to them as sacred principles, some people refer to them as gods and goddesses. The essence, English is not my first language, so we're going to highlight that as well, that English is also very limiting on our ability to define spirit because it's so expansive, it's so omnipotent, so omnipresent, so universal. Many times we get misunderstood when we come out of the house of Per Ankh and Smai Tawin. When we speak of Per Ankh, we're simply saying a house of life, and every single one of us represents a house of life. And if you put your arms to the side, you will see the Ankh, the eternal life force, right in your own being. And many times our legacy, I'll say it again, our ancient, ancestral, African, Nubian, Kushianu, Kemetu heritage legacy gets lost or misrepresented. Most times persons are not even comfortable speaking of the Ankh legacy. Many times it has been bastardized, terrorized, despite the greatness and the foundational wholeness around spirit, around those principles of Ma'at, as truth, justice, order, reciprocity, balance, divine righteousness, and harmony, around those ancestral principles of Chihuti, the ancestral principle around divine wisdom and intelligence, around that ancestral principle of Asar, the divine masculine, the father, the keeper of that grounding, or Ast, the divine feminine, the divine mother, that keeper of grounding, and Heru. We have a saying, I say Heru, you say Yeshua, she says Jesus, you say Elohim. We have these things that we get caught up in because we overlook the oneness of the spirit. When we speak of the Ennead, and we speak of Ubuntu, and we speak of the power of 9 and the eternal foundation in that number of 9 leading into completion, our grounded spiritual grounding, yeah? It's very similar. That's why many brothers and sisters in the Ifa tradition, there's a lot of similarities, a lot of overlay. We're like a lotus, and all 1,000 plus petals allow for us to embrace, love, sometimes challenge, sometimes question, but invoke the harmony of these principles that are ancient, ancestral, and very grounded in African. And when we say African, we don't say AFRICAN. We say AFRAKAN. It's the soul and the flesh of ancestral spirit, grounded in the sun, the moon, and all that the Womaniverse brings. And those are the types of elements that when we begin to share about Per Ankh and Smaitawi, and Smaitawi speaking of the sacred union of that sovereign ancestral presence, civilization of all. That's what we speak of when we speak of Per Ankh, house of life of Smaitawi. We've had a nation. We've had sovereignty. We speak of African sovereignty, African fundamentalism, and these elements in a very spiritual space. And we do not separate that which is spiritual from that which persons may refer to as secular or physical, etc., because we know that they work together. One of the openings that we have customarily used when we do an invocation, whether it's for a marriage, which we refer to as a Smaitawi union, because it's the coming together and the yoking of male and female, the yoking of families. Similar to when we do a naming ceremony, a house blessing, or a ascension transitional rite. Some people refer to as funerals, because we're not doing the dirge piece per se. We're focusing on pulling our ancestral legacy and the teachings therein, whether it comes from the Pertemru and Ger, that intentionally to dismantle Per Ankh and Smaitawi and ancient ancestral African, Nubian, Kushian, Kemetu heritage legacies, the Ankh legacy, it has been dismantled and misrepresented as Egypt, even in Kemet. And people forget Kemet is one portion along the Hapi Nile River. The root of it comes from the beginning of the mountains of the moon, as our illustrious ancestor, Dr. Yosef Ben Yakanan shared with us. The foundational core of knowing the difference between spirituality and religion also has been taught, brought forth through the work of powerful elders amongst us, like Dr. Mfundishi, Juhudi Mes, Hassan El Salim of Black Gold. And it's important that persons recognize there's a number, there's ASCAC organizations that are recalibrating how we begin to look at classical African civilization through the lens of spiritual engagement. And then there are those that, of course, can become very academic, because that's a safer space for many than to say that I walk as an initiate, keeping in alignment with these ancestral principles of, and I'll share some. When I'm saying a Necherak, I'm actually giving praise and thanks and opening up the fullness of space, of the noon, all that is in the heavens, of Chihuti, as I've expressed in regard to divine wisdom and intelligence, of Ma'at, as I've expressed, this truth, justice, order, reciprocity, balance, divine righteousness, and harmony, of Ptah segment, Ptah as that stabilizing force of keeping things in grounded and keeping us firm in our spiritual walk, our actions, our deeds, and much more. Of Sekhmet, that divine principle, very feminine principle, of purification, yes, fire sometimes, yes, and also healing. You ever notice before you start feeling, what is it? It's a fever in the body system, and then you begin to heal. And again, look at these principles in that same light of the Atum Muta, which is showing us the mother and the father in all that's within our universe, right? Of Shu, and listen to it, of that principle that governs air, of Tefnut, of that principle that governs moisture, right? Of Seb, some persons say Geb, of that principle, don't accept the misrepresentation. Well, it has the head of this and the body of a human, this is this, and so on. So we have to recalibrate how we look at our ancient ancestral African spiritual traditions and see them and welcome them as an integral part of everything that exists now. Because Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism, all have a grounding, fluid relationship with these ancient ancestral traditions coming out of that 12 million square mile space of Africa that permeated like ripples in the ocean throughout the entire earth. And this has been for millennia upon millennia upon millennia. It's not just the other day. We speak of the Paut Neteru, or the 9 principles that govern and engage when we speak of spirituality. As I've mentioned, of the divine masculine, the divine father of Asar, as an immortal, as well as immortal. The divine feminine, the divine mother principle of Ast. Some people say Isis. So again, if we look at the Greco-Roman transformation of a very ancient Ankh legacy tradition, it was intentionally illegitimized. It was intentionally put into a space of direct wire and direct discord, even amongst Africans. And I will give a case in point of that in a moment. We'll speak of principles of Ainpu, that divine keeper, that protector. So persons got confused when they see Anubis, oh, well, it's a dog head or a jackal head in the body of a human, and they misunderstood. You ever notice how well dogs smell? You ever notice how protective they are of their master? Right? There's those types of, we're looking at the principle that guides the ancestral guardian, right? We speak of Nebuchadnezzar, or the mistress of the house, the keeper of the house, alongside her sister for life, who was Aset. And persons forget that. You know, we speak of the triad, and you'll speak of the mother, Father, permiso, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And sometimes it'll appear like the mother just, when in actuality, of course, it's the mother, the father, and the child. But again, if it's intentional to misrepresent African tradition, then we spend, and when I say we, I'm speaking of those that are keepers of African traditional spiritual practices and livity, not just something we made up the other day, but things that have millennia upon millennia of grounding and strength, of being able to contribute to civilization, not only in Africa, but around the globe. They have to be reintroduced and respected and welcomed warmly. And in the space of African sovereignty, that fundamental space that keeps us in the oneness. You'll hear persons speak of Heru Ur, or the principle of Heru, as the son of Ast and Asar, when he's the elder, right? That term Ur is the elder, yeah? And you'll hear people speak of the Shepshu Anku, those ancestral principles and guardians of those that are no longer on the earth plane, moving into immortality, and how we bring those guardians and honor them. Just like we would have an altar space for our elders, an altar space for our youth, an altar space for our communities, our altar space for our nation and all of humanity. It's challenging to have to keep defending African traditional spirituality. So that's part of what I would like to offer in that regard, because there are other guardians, that are invoked, are asked to give directional space. We literally do this in a form of the 8 directions around us as we open for an invocation, as we close. The same way in other traditions, persons will pray, put their hands together and bring it to their hearts. The same way we'll see people cross their arms. This is not only from Wakanda, it predates the movie. This is an ancestral manner in which we show a kes and respect and honor. When you see someone coming to you like this from the Smai Tawi tradition, it's because we're coming in that space of honor and respect and welcoming of your spiritual energy and the charge that you bring to humanity, yeah? And many people misunderstand that. If they see someone bow to someone, they think it's like, oh, you're ruling, you're trying to be subservient, or they rule over you. Very different vibration. It's about ma'at. It's about reciprocity and honor and respect. It's about welcoming the great grandparents of contemporary religion. And many persons, and I understand they get a little touchy, because many of the things that come out of the ancient, ancestral, African, Nubian, Cushian, Kemetu heritage legacy, I'm gonna keep saying it, persons misunderstand. If you see a book called The Book of the Dead, would you read it? Probably not, until you learn that that is the inaccurate translation of a book called the Pertemru Ngera, a scriptural text that is inscribed in stone 6 inches deep in various temples that are still being interfered with in spaces like the United Arab Republic, called Egypt, more accurately Kemet. It's really important that we know the proper name, the Book of Coming Forth by Day into Night, the Book of the Great Awakening. Now, if you heard that title, then you may be more inclined to even explore and invite your mind, body, soul, spirit, and consciousness to receive that next layer of spiritual engagement and teaching. However, if you are given the illegitimate terms, if you were given the direct and blatant lies around the ancestral Ankh legacy, then of course, Egypt is cursed, Egypt did this, Egypt did that, instead of learning what Kemet represents. what Nubia represents, what Kush represents, and all that preceded even that, right? We tend to look at these spaces from like a very Eurasian perspective first and overlook, even in our spiritual practices and our spiritual initiatory engagements. And we overlook that the Ankh is a symbol of eternal life that is grounded in almost every spiritual manifestation on the earth. All of us are in that realm of embracing life eternal and welcoming the womb of the woman at the top, the Jed of the man, giving us that same pata stability, and the wings, the crossbar, representing the fruits of woman and man, our children. And that could be taken in a variety of different ways that are deeper than this particular convening. I am really grateful to be able to also share that there is a component that is very, as I mentioned earlier, that is very telling. And I'll give an example of why this African diaspora reconnection, recalibration of Per Ankem Smaitawi has come forward. When we speak of Ma'at, I don't think anyone amongst us has a problem with the restoration of truth, justice, order, reciprocity, balance, divine righteousness, and harmony. And all those 7 words in English, Ma'at, 4 letters, and a feminine guardian at that. So it shows the connection of the power of the feminine alongside and complementary to the power of the masculine. And that's part of what we desire to bring to the forefront when we speak of Per Ankh, House of Life, M. Smai Tawi, bringing that sacred union, that sacred sovereignty to the heights. With that, I would close for the purposes here with sharing that this has been a restorative work. Per Ankem Smai Tawi was formed around the early 80s and became more formal in the early part of 1990. We have had shrines, temples, spiritual fellowship throughout the globe. There are a number of brothers and sisters that have maintained shrines for a multiplicity of these guardians that have been mentioned here. And they're, whether it's the Smaitawi Ankh Ascension Renaissance under the leadership of Baba Heru Ankra Samad Sepata. Persons in New York may know him as the Ankh Man or just Baba Heru. As I mentioned, Dr. Mfundishi Jehudi Mess, keeping that shrine, that vibration, that temple space for the divine guardian of Chehuti. There are the Center for the Restoration of Ma'at, again, obviously guiding that grounding shrine protection of the principle, the guardians of Ma'at. And we work with them again throughout the Caribbean, throughout Central and South America, even in the Pacific Islands, as well as in the continent. And this is something that we've been working towards embracing. So I will close with great is Ma'at, Shehudi Sishait, theirs are everlasting. They have been unchanged and consistent since Septepi the first time, from the noon's creation, and since the first time when Asar, Ast, Heru, Heteru, Nebethet Ainpu pro-established the natural way of Ma'at in Smaitawi, in ancient Kush, Kemet, Tanateru, Duawunter. If I may, I just desire to also show the connections of some of our brothers and sisters that are in a more Christian space. And one of the things that was shared with me this morning, and I desired to kind of highlight that in the recommendation from our co-founder of Per Ankem Smaitawi, my beloved husband, Nesu Nepkara Asar Herishata Pahiru. He shared a quote from His Imperial Majesty Selassie. Spirituality does not come from religion. It comes from our soul. We must stop confusing religion and spirituality. Religion is a set of rules, regulations, and rituals created by humans, which were supposed to help people spiritually. Due to human imperfection, religion has become corrupt, political, divisive, and a tool for power struggle. Spirituality is not theology or ideology. It is simply a way of life, pure and original, as given by the Most High. Spirituality is a network linking us to the Most High, the universe, and each other. Not my words. These are the words of His Imperial Majesty, Haile Selassie I, the Emperor of Ethiopia, Kush. So I'm really honored, Nana, Dr. Remi, for being able to share that piece. If I am given an opportunity, I would also share some messages that persons are sharing with me because they weren't able to come today, but different members of ministry around the globe, inclusive of our illustrious Reverend Queen, Dr. Yvonne Washington Toure of God's House International. She has just landed in God's House International's headquarters in Sierra Leone, so she too shared a message as well. But I'm grateful. And as I greeted you, as I said Hotep, greetings of peace and tranquility, I say Hetepu, and I ask that we continue to show love, balance, and energy that facilitates our prosperity in body, mind, soul, spirit, and consciousness. Dua Winter.
Hotep, thank you so much for such an in-depth presentation on the state of African religion and spirituality. And I have a question for you. You know, you've taken us back in history, in time, that, you know, unfortunately in many parts of the world, or those who are not familiar with a lot of the information that you have presented today, they may be afraid, they may be shy, you know, they may not accept easily, or it seems so in depth that, you know, it seems more academic. It's like, you know, learning about ancient history, or the, you know, you have to read every letter, you know, on a pyramid or in, you know, some society to be able to be a part of this community, or, you know, practice, you know, be part of the spiritual practices. Is there a way that you can share how, you know, the beginner who would like to be familiar with these teachings, or these, you know, tenets, or this way of life, is there a way that the beginner can absorb some of these spiritual practices, or to learn about this community before, you know, saying that, okay, I'm part of the Pe-Ank, Smitawi organization or community, or, you know, I would like to learn more or apply some of the ancient Kemetic or Kushite teachings to my spiritual life? How can one go about it in a more simpler form?
I like that you asked in a more simpler form, so I'm honored by the question, and I encourage persons, everyone take a second and take a very deep breath. And hold that breath for 4 seconds, 3, 2, 1, and let it out gently. You've already started your own reconnection with the Ankh legacy, just through breathing, right? Sending an email is one way, because persons that desire to read more, to get a better understanding or corrective understanding of what the Ankh legacy is, that's a place to start. And I'll put my email in the chat at perankh@me, PERANKH@me.com. I also invite persons to look at AST Speaks, which is the YouTube page where we do a wide array of educational, informative presentations in video, primarily in video form, around the legacy. I encourage persons to also look on YouTube for Parent Ankh Communiversity. university starting with KHAM, right? And though there's some dated videos, however, it gives you the basics of just understanding what is an Ankh, what is a symbol representing eternal life mean, what are the 42 principles of Ma'at. Those are things that you can find even by looking at the work from the studio of Ptah, again, the elder designer, Baba Haru Ankara Samaj, who is an ordained elder priest, right? Keeper of the tradition of the Ankh legacy. And you can see what those principles are, and it will begin to be familiar, and it's very simple, and it will just go through a space of helping you to recognize this ancestral legacy and its linkage and its foundational core on African traditional spirituality. So I've known persons that are in many walks of African traditional spirituality, and they will pull as is needed, as they are comfortable around those 42 principles of Ma'at. And people refer to them as laws. Some people say admonitions, other people say oracles. The bottom line is what you can utter that you will not do when you rise. And what will you utter that you have not done before you go to rest, so that your heart can be as light as a feather in Ma'at, grounded in truth. Those are some beginning places. There's learning with Mfundishi, persons that are on social media, just learning with Mfundishi, like it sounds, Mfundishi. You can learn from these different courses. Many persons have courses. The Center for the Restoration of Ma'at has different pieces, the Temple of Anu. And I'm speaking of those that are, since most of us are in the Western Hemisphere, I'm speaking of those that people may be familiar with in the Americas. However, there are many that are also grounded in the same tradition, even with resistance inside of contemporary Kemet, Egypt. There have been times where there are conferences that are hosted there, and Africans coming from the diaspora, yeah? When we go into these spaces and these temples, there is resistance, even from the Department of Antiquities, for us to even get access to temples to do our ancestral spiritual work, which is not the case for persons that are part of the Judaist, Christian, or Muslim tradition. Those are the types of things that are very real and, again, simple for us to begin to touch on and engage. Another way of being involved around the Ankh legacy, be involved in an African grounded organization. I'm very pleased to see that our President General of the Universal Negro Improvement Association African Communities League, RC 2020, Baba Akili Nkrumah, is here. Because in addition to being a President General in the UNIAACL RC 2020, he's also a Reverend. And it's really important to recognize the role of spirituality and connectivity around the Ankh legacy as we go through these different convenings and these different sharings. One of my greatest teachers is a keeper of the Bun tradition. I didn't know what the Bun tradition was. I didn't know that it predated Buddhism. I didn't know, and I give thanks to Reverend Tonai C. Gilman for giving me some guidance through her teachers and those that guided her. That way I could actually blend my understanding, again, coming out of the Americas, coming through the Caribbean, of course, and then being in Africa and searching and going to 30 plus different countries in the African continent in search of this rootedness of this ancient, ancestral, African, Nubianu, Kushianu, Kemetu heritage legacy. I can respect persons that bring the creator and creative spirit into our space. And I honor them, even if I differ with some of the practices. And that's something you'll find from an authentic keeper of the Ankh legacy. When it's all this resistance and war and divisiveness, that's not of the creator. That's not of the Most High. And that's what we're praying most humbly, that we can restore that tranquility on how we engage with one another and minimize the illegitimizing character and behavior towards ancient traditions within the Ankh legacy. So that's a start. That's just the start.
Thank you so much, dear senior sister. Thank you so much. I would like to bring to the floor Brother Akiu Nkrumah to share his reflections. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hotep family.
Hotep.
Sante Sana for the opportunity, not just to speak, but to listen and continue to learn and grow. Because the variations of religion, if you call it that, but your variations are such that you need to be able to understand your differences are not really differences. It's merely a choice of how you practice and how you understand the Most High. For the Most High built highways to him, not a single road. And so with that said, as I've listened to the elder brother before, my sister queen, Dr. Chenzira, I find it more stimulating because one of the things we have to do in order to change the content of the challenges that we face is to change the understanding culturally, as well as value system of our communities and our people. Because at this point in time, our community has lost values and we have to restore those values. And you restore the values, not by trying to restore those things that tore you down, but you restore them with the values of those things that built you up. And that's what our culture, that's what our history did for us. It helped us rise over 7,000 years prior to the oncoming and the invention of Christianity or other religions. That's what we did. That 7,000, 8,000 years of history was done through Pa'an, done through Ma'at, done through the understanding of how we developed as humans. It didn't leave anyone out. People went out and therefore chose a different direction. So my reflections is this is most beneficial. The title in and of itself, when Dr. Chenzira sent it to me, was the title. So, oh, world spirituality. I gotta go. I gotta be there. I apologize though for coming late, but you know, it's truly necessary for the oneness of a person to be one with one spirit and understanding that your spirit is one with the Most High Spirit. That's me. Asante Sana.
Asante Sana, dear brother. Thank you so much. Now I would like to call on Dr. Toyi to share her reflections.
Nice.
I know you're working and you're usually in the ICU and you can't put your camera on, but please take the floor. You can share your reflections on today's topic or the speaker's presentation.
Thank you so much, my sisters. Dr. Remi, thank you, our queen, and thank you, our father, Chief Ifakunle, and thank you for my special brother that just shared his reflection as well. I won't deceive you, I'm just overwhelmed with joy and gladness to learn and grow this morning. It has been a special blessing for me to really learn and hear what our queen and our father has just discussed about spirituality. My reflection is actually, I won't be selfish, but I will say deep inside of me. It took me back to the origin of where we all came from. That the oneness of our Maker, the Most High, is just one. And we all have to embrace that uniqueness of the oneness of the Most High, of Elohim. Whichever way that we call him, we are just one brother, one sister, one world, one nation. I'm really very glad about what Chief Ifakunle said about Orunmila and Ile-Ife. That drew me back to a time when I actually went back home to Nigeria to also study about Ile-Ife. And I have the opportunity also to visit the Osun Shrine. I don't know if Chief is still there, if they are related or not, but I'm learning and growing. And thank you also for the Queen who has just shared, how we as women can come over also with our spirituality and embrace this with love and inspire our generation to come, to bring forth this uniqueness of spirituality, not religion. That's all I will share this morning. I'm just overwhelmed with joy. And thank you so much for giving me the platform to share. I'm sorry I couldn't put on video. I tried to take off today, but there's nobody to exchange shift with me. But thank you very much, my sister, Dr. Remi. Thank you, Guruji. Thank you, all my mothers and fathers on the platform. Eshegon, Modupe.
Eshe Adupe. Thank you very much, Dr. Toyin. And Eshe means thank you, the same with Adupe. So, they mean the same thing in Yoruba. I would like to call on Brother Richard Jordan. He shared earlier about, in the chat on Sankofa, which is very important, which means going back to the roots or, tracing your past to be able to see the future or get to the future. So I would like you to share your reflections on that, and then we can open the floor for general comments and questions.
Eshe, thank you, Dr. Remi. If you are seeing a physical person, I am really a sponge. So the sponge soaks up the images, the sounds, the words, the wisdom. So that is what I really am right now as I progress through life, listening, enhancing my perceptions. And Sankofa was introduced to me by the Most Reverend Michael Curry, who is the presiding bishop of the Episcopal Church at St. John's Church, Lafayette Square in Washington, at a seminar with the historical Black colleges and universities in the United States. And for me, Sankofa is important because I need to look back through not just my own Christian tradition, but through many traditions, and to understand from the past how I can make progress going into the future. So Sankofa is a very close friend of mine now. I walk with Sankofa all the time. So we have conversations because my spirit guides were my parakeets when I was a child. They inform me. So they are also friends of Sankofa. So just one last practical element. When I chaired the 60th annual UN Conference for NGOs in 2007, I spoke from the podium of the General Assembly. And I wore a tice, which is a shawl made on Timor-Leste, East Timor, by unidentified artisans. But I introduced myself as chief of the village for 3 days. So people who needed to find the chief and didn't know what I looked like, all they had to do was to look for the guy with the shawl, the scarf, which was the symbol of authority. And after that conference, I passed the shawl as a symbol of authority to the next chief, because I only had to wear it for 3 days, but the next person would wear it for 3 days, and so on, and so on, and so on. So thank you for this absolutely wonderful session. And I would also like to acknowledge Cliff Frazier, who I believe left us or left this plane earlier this month from the New York Metropolitan Martin Luther King Jr. Center. I learned a great deal from Cliff, and he's remembered with fondness. So, Eshe, thank you so much for everyone. And Sankofa is just over here reminding me, don't forget to look back in order to move forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Brother Richard, for your wonderful comments and also sharing, your activities in relation to Sankofa. I would like to open the floor now for general questions to any of the speakers or general comments on today's topic. And there's a request, Guruji, I believe you pinned Brother Akil and I, and that's what everyone is saying on the screen. So do you mind to unpin us, please? So we're the only two showing, you know, on other people's screen.
I am recording with everybody. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
Sister
right.
Remi, can I say?
Yes. Good morning, Brother Raj, Brother Oneness.
Good morning. Good morning. I enjoyed the whole presentation celebrating African History Month. Just my connection to Africa back in 92, 93, I worked at Bedford Stuyvesant Restoration Corporation in Bed-Stuy. So it was a close interaction with the people over there. And now one of my daughter-in-law is from Eritrea, and 3 of my grandchildren are African-American descent, at least partially. So I always had fond feelings for people of Africa. They're especially the ancestral worship. That's something which is also common in the Hindu tradition. In Dasara festival time, we dedicate one whole day. We remember at least 3 generations, both on the father side, mother side, sometimes even going back to 8, 10 generation. Because any spiritual progress we make, it is believed that it reaches 7 generations going back and 7 generations going forward. So the more healing we have, more love we have, we are able to give that benefit to 7 generation going back and going forward. So this ancestral worship, all the eloquent speakers have spoken, deeply has a strong connection for me. You know, I love people. That's why I'm part of Guruji and the World Yoga community. It's a community. It's not just one faction, one aspect of it. You know, so any which way we worship the Creator, who has given us this gift of life, and to share that God's love, and then with all of our people, you know, that's what it's all about. At the end of the journey, when we face our Maker, the only thing matters is not how much money we had, how big of a car we drove, how much, what title we had. Only thing is how much love we have shared with everyone. God bless everyone. Thank you.
God bless you, Brother Oneness. Thank you so much. I would like to call Dr. Kapal Singh.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Remi. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, very clear.
Okay, thank you. You know, I'm fascinated with all what I have heard this morning. And you see behind me is the Golden Temple, which is the sixth shrine, like Mecca is for the Muslims and Vatican and like that, you know. All this is the result of the teachings of Guru Nanak, which is based 550 years ago. He emphasized that oneness is not new, but oneness is right from the beginning since the world is created. And that oneness shows itself in many forms. It is the oneness. It's the diversity, which is part of the divine order. And we should respect, recognize, and celebrate it in all its forms. For that, they created this monument, Golden Temple, which is 4 doors, north, south, east, west, and people from all directions are welcome to sing the glories of the Creator. Known by many names, but still it's one. And all the creation is out of that oneness. And so we must respect each other, try to help each other, collaborate with each other. And for that reason, they not only build this monument, in the very beginning, they established the institution of langar, which means dining together, no matter what's gender, race, religion you have, we all sit together and share food and water and all, so that barriers of strangers are broken away. And there's the emphasis that we must learn always from our elders, generations before, not just worship them, but actually learn from their stories how to live our life and practice those lessons as we leave this world better with our children and grandchildren. Thank you.
Thank you, dear brother. Sister Gita, do you have any reflections to share or any questions for the panelists or any comments?
Namaste to everyone. Namaste,
Namaste.
Libation. I want to say something about spirituality. Actually, real spirituality is love and respect for all religions. That is spirituality. And everyone should realize that we are all the child of God, and we are all are one. And one should feel the pain of others. One should happy with the happiness of others. That is spirituality. Not only one should not be selfish, and that day will come when all are happy with others' happiness and feel the pain of others, and that day will be the great day for all the humanity, and that day will the peace prevail in the whole world. That I want to say.
Thank you so much, dear sister. Brother Chris. Brother Chris? Yes. You're muted.
Reverend Chris. Move on, Remi.
Okay. All right, let's go to Sister Yvonne Washington Toure, who is joining us from Sierra Leone. I guess you're on your way from the airport to, that is commitment. That's called spiritual commitment. Thank you so much. She has just landed in Sierra Leone, and I guess she's, in the car on her way to her destination, and she has just joined us. Please, you have the floor.
Yes, ma'am. And the reception is very, very, very bad. I thought I would try to log in real quick. This is my pastor with me. This is Pastor Ibrahim Suri Manson Bangora. And we represent God's House International Church in Freetown, Sierra Leone. And we're here doing kingdom work, groundbreaking kingdom work, trying to set the captives free in Sierra Leone. We're serious about God's work, and God is doing great things here, and we're happy to be a part of this meeting. And I have here also Dr. Jose, and that's Dr. Jose Miguel Nunes Tavares, and we're getting ready to do more groundbreaking work here in the medical field as we've done for the last 20 years on March 11th. We believe that ministry here, not about giving spiritual food, but we must give physical food as well in order for the people to hear us.
Thank you so much, sister. And God bless you for your work. Be safe, and may God protect you, and, in everything that you're there to do in Sierra Leone. Thank you very much. I would like to call on Sister Maria Ray.
Thank you very, very much. Without firm faith, everything is gone. You have to walk by the power of God, because many will hinder the work. But when you know you're walking by the power of God and not of yourself, everything that the Lord tells you to do will be manifested in the physical.
Thank you so much. God bless you. Amen. Hallelujah. Sister Maria.
Well, hi, everybody. I want to thank all for all these wonderful teachings. Every time I connect with you, I learn so much. And I just want to say my conclusion for today that oneness and diversity are the same, the two different sides of the same coin that, we share all, regardless of our tradition, background, religion, whatever, we all share the same feeling, the same principle of, we have to thank our creator. We have the same creator. And this is very important, and not everybody is aware of that. And it's very, it's essential that we have to spread this teaching, this feeling of oneness and diversity at the same time, that we all belong to the same family. And this is very, very valuable to me and to the rest of humanity. So I really want to thank you all for giving me the opportunity of participate of these great meetings. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sister. Thank you. Brother Chris.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. I'm happy and laughing today again, but I am so deeply moved of the many studies that I've had from over 50 years ago about many things of the Ankh and many other things that I have not brought up deep inside of myself for a long, long time. And I thank you so much for both you doctors to present such an interreligious understanding of the deepness of your culture and things. And I'm so moved I will study even more. And I'm very moved by understanding about ancestors. And recently, in our group, we've been doing many different programs of going back to 430 generations of healing of our ancestors. It is a wonderful thing. It is deeply moving, and it is deeply rearranging this world to be truly one family and really in heart and love. Thank you so much for all that you presented today.
Thank you so much, brother. We have a closing video from Senior Dr. Chenzira from the Pe Ankh Smaitawi organization.
I'm grateful for that share because it gives the context of why we speak of Africa, the diaspora, continental. Oh, well. We speak amongst the trees. I think you might want to stop that video. It'll get to the music part. It gets a little bit engaging. However, that was taken at a time where the entire country was shut down in the changing of leadership in 2011. And when we arrived to do research and initiatory work, we ended up being given an option of departing or staying. And we chose to stay, and we were welcomed by the people, specifically in Aswan and around Luxor. And I desired to share that because that's the layer of work that our oneness, our humanity coming together and respecting these African, ancient, ancestral, Nubian, Cushian, Kemetu heritage legacy. You'll hear us just say Ankh legacy, but it represents the Ankh-yes. And for those that aren't familiar, this carrying Ankh allows for us to represent the womb of the woman, the crossbar, the wings of our children, our fruit, and the stability, the jet of our men, right? So it's feminine, yes, masculine, blended with that oneness. And so when you see a person that's carrying an Ankh, that means that they're being responsible for their life and the lives that they are responsible for, you know, not only our physical, biological children, but far beyond, and our communities. And all we're saying is that we embrace and we honor life. So that comes with love and light. It comes with namaste, hallelujah, amin ra. Inshallah, awalak akbar. It embraces all of that. The alafia, the modipue, it embraces all of that to the best of our ability. So with that being said, we can close now.
Yes. And you would like to offer a closing prayer?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
If we could just take a deep breath together again, let everything out first, and then take the deep breath. And just hold it for 4 so we can embrace all of what we've been able to share, all of the healing energy, all of the light that allows for each and every one of us to hold sacred space. And when we release, let's just take a moment and let that sound out of harmony. Another deep breath. Bring it in all together with everything that we've been able to share. Deep breath. Hold. We give thanks and praise to the One Most High. We shall live each day daily for the One Most Divine, and we shall do it tomorrow just as we do it today. When we're saying Amasu and Banter, Sauksu Emhra and Banter, Autu Maketi Pahiru, we're asking so that forums like this allow for us to restore the balance. We ask for the principles of Ma'at to reign supreme as we traverse from this gathering, albeit virtual. We're bringing one another into that ancestral sacred space, showing love, showing mercy, showing healing, wellness, prosperity in all of our views. May everyone be guided with safety, abundant life into the eternal realms for generations upon generations upon generations. May the hurt, the discomfort that is plaguing the earth be quenched and put away. May we remember to invoke wicked arrows, go back to sender so that we are protected and able to walk strong, walk tall in our journeys, whether it's in a place of work, worship, recreation, or otherwise. As we've come, we say Hetepu, guidance for those that desire to say Amen, Amen. Those that say hallelujah, hallelujah.
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 Those that say namaste, say it namaste.
Namaste.
And with that, we say we give thanks and praise. It's been an honor and privilege. Do our
Thanks
work.
and praise.
Yes.
Thank you so much, dear sister. It's a pleasure that I was able to moderate this program on the state of African religion and spirituality this morning. And I want to thank all the speakers, Chief Ifakunle from Oyotunji Kingdom, Senior Dr. Chenzira from the Payang Smitawi organization, all the guests this morning who shared their reflections and questions, and everyone out there. Thank you so much, Guruji, my brother from another mother. I would like to turn the program over to you now, our gracious host, chairman of World Yoga Community. Thank you so much.
I want to add the word Sat Sri Akal, which means we are all one.
Sat Sri Akal.
Give thanks. Give thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Remi, for moderating this event. It's a very important event for me because I try to connect different ethnic groups from different countries, and I had to acknowledge that Dr. Chenzira Kahina mentioned about a spiritual nature of a human being. Most of the days I say all the religions are man-made, period. But spirituality already exists in the universe. So we have to reconnect it, nothing else. Those who sit in our program with any dogma of your religion, put it in your house, come to our meeting. This is the open forum for entire world. Sometimes I do interfaith prayers or Hindu prayers, whatever I want to do it, I just do it. But I don't belong to any of the religious group, or even in my country either. That's why I promote things. Because I want to make sure people come to our program to promote spirituality rather than religion or a culture. Otherwise, nothing can change. We know kings and queens, assembly members, or the religious leaders, the political leaders, they come with a certain kind of dogmas to implement something. We are not looking for those things. We want to make sure this is a global family.
Yes.
That is very important. All the wars happening because of different types of dogmas. Even the business field, we have dogmas. Just look at the COVID-19. When you look to the deeper sense of that COVID-19, so much business in it. So life is not meant for this. So we had to educate people, reconnect the way of living in a spiritual path. That is very, very important. So I would like to thank today's speakers, our Chief Ifakunle and Kahina and Akile and Sister Toyin. I know she cannot show her video. I like to see everybody's face on the program. I'm recording. Sometimes you are not seeing what I am recording, what I want to put it in the YouTube, because that is going to run longer than our Zoom meeting. So people are watching, over 500 people are watching now. It's very important giving message to people around the globe. They may get only one bit of knowledge from one speaker, but that will go to their brain and start working. Let them develop themselves. Only we can guide it. We can light the lamp. If those who can understand the light, they will develop. Otherwise, it will take time. So that's a step-by-step movement supposed to happen. We cannot suddenly change everything. You're confused. People grew up in America. Their parents came from abroad, and children want to go and see what is their origin. They may not understand same like the real people from that country. It will take long time. So we had to allow them to go back and learn it and implement good things in their life. And definitely I promote a globalized spirituality or a universalized spirituality. That's why we bring all the cultural stuff to our program. So Monday will be our closing ceremony. We have 18 speakers, including Ambassador Chowdhury from the UN diplomacy group. and a lot of religious leaders are there. One of the assembly or one or two assembly people will be there. They're very nice with us. And those who are in the flyer, they'll speak first. Thereafter, we have an open forum for everybody to say a few words. So make sure you go with the time limit because we have only 3 hours.
Right.
For me, this is today's the 35th program in this month. Our program, physical program and the online program. So even night I have programs going on and on and on. I never give up because I asked some people to help me to put up this program. They said yes. After a few weeks, they disappeared. This is a commitment they have in spirituality. I said, even if I'm alone, I'm going to run the show. So we are in successful movement. Those who are dedicated, they pop up any day. That I already saw, how they are. So last day, one guy said, "Oh, I totally forgot." I said, "Did you forget to eat your food, or did you forget to sleep?" I forget to eat and sleep most of the days. But I know I had to implement this one. If now I cannot wait for another year, I may not be able to. So that's a time for everything. That's why I put things together. I know those who admire, they really love me. They know how we are doing things, So tomorrow will be open forum. Everybody can speak. Then the final gala. So I know all people cannot speak in the last day for a long time. Very short, 1 minute maximum. Guest of honors may speak 7 minutes. Main guest may be 15 minutes. Some special guest may be 10 minutes. In between, we have music, dance, and all this stuff. I like to play one of the African music. If you have Kahina, if you have something, just send to me with the drumming. That's the best part I love about the African culture, drumming and dancing. Because sometimes I go to Central Park and dance with the African community. They have a drum circle there. Or sometimes go for Nigerian parade with all the artists. That's fun. But I love music and dance. So I enjoy it. So thank you everyone having this
Thank you.
wonderful Black History Month
Thank you so much.
celebration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Guruji.
Yes,
Thank you.
So see you
Thank
tomorrow.
you. There was a lot
Adukwe.
of African spirituality today.
Yes,
Yes.
Adukwe. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you, Remi, again.
Yeah, thank
That's good.
This is called Bamboola, and this is the rhythm that we play here in the Virgin Islands. And it's going to sound very familiar. And the dance, well, I'm not showing that whole part because I don't have
video clip like a 4 minutes or something. YouTube, if I take it, and sometimes they block our video.
No video. I don't have a video that I can share today, but I'll make sure that the next time I will have the video for sure.
The music is good after party.
the music helps make the party.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
And the drum shows the universality of all of us. Because the rhythm touches everybody's soul.
There you go. No, but I can put the link from where that is. That is my family. We have an ensemble that's part of Bamboola, and we actually do this traditional spiritual dance and drumming and Adiyanka, which is it's like yoga dance. That's what we should refer to it as, right? So that we're able to do the breathing, the clarity of mind, the fusion of body, mind, soul, spirit, and consciousness in a oneness while we're doing the rhythms. And there's a part where the women dance, and there's a part where the women, we swap, and the women drum and the men dance, so that we can show that harmony in the oneness. And we do it with a very spiritual focus and full acknowledgement and recognition and honor of our Almighty Creator. That'll be what we do together the next time we get together.
Yes.
I like a video because visual is different. Yeah.
Do you have the link to share?
Yeah, I can share the link. That's what I'll
send
do.
it to my Facebook Messenger.
Of course.
So I can take it from direct from there.
Okay, of course.
So thank you, everyone. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hotep.
Hotep. Adupe.
Namaste.
Namaste.